An entitled Karen threatens to get me fired after I accommodate people that she tried to chase away at our tennis club. But after throwing a variety of curses and threats towards me and my friend, at the end of the day, she and her partner got absolutely banned from our facility. And with all things considered, this entitled Karen absolutely had it coming. Here's what happened. So I was a tennis coach at my local club for 5 years, with the majority of this job being when I was in high school. While this club was more of a social environment that encouraged children and adults to play for fun rather than a serious tennis academy pumping out prospects, it all had characters. While I could write a whole heap about my time there, there's one incident that will always stick out as my favorite because of the outcome. A couple of years ago, my best mate by the name of Martin, that's not their real name, as well as myself, were having our usual hit on a Saturday afternoon. Martin's dad and his little sister were playing on the court next to us as she was just starting tennis. On the other side of the club, we see a unique club member, who we will call Karen for the sake of anonymity, as well as her partner, playing in the court between the two of them. And that's right when I notice a group of non-players showing up and eager to play the game themselves. They go onto the court next to those two, and the entitled Karen and her partner abruptly begin to kick them off the court. And watching this was honestly very shocking, because it looked like they were saying some not so nice words, as well as using hand gestures that are definitely considered very offensive, if you know what I mean. Now, my boss told the coaches in a meeting a while before this that we are more than welcome to open the courts up for any non-members as a free trial, and we do this to make the club as welcoming and as encouraging as possible, just so new people can come more often and possibly become members themselves, which is something that this entitled Karen and her partner were clearly not doing. And while those two weren't aware of the free trial aspect, Martin and I saw the entire thing, and we felt awful for how rude those two were being. So we stopped our match to open up the courts behind the pair just so they could play themselves. And as gracious as the group that was just chased off by this entitled Karen were for what we did, on the opposite end of that, this entitled Karen was not happy. We walked back to our court, played a couple of points, and the entitled Karen marched over to our court and launched a fireworks of words towards me and my friend, all because we opened up that court for this group of people. She started screaming at us that we would not be suitable adults in the future. She looked at us, a couple of teenagers, and said, "What were you idiots doing? You guys are so disrespectful. The integrity of this club is now going down because of you. I'm gonna call your boss to report you idiots. You boys won't be at this club again after I get a hold of the person in charge." While Martin and I were trying to be as respectful and professional without blowing up, I stated that I'm just doing what I've been told. And as she kept launching at me, Martin's dad overheard everything and came over to our defense. He stated, "Who are you to talk to teenagers like that? You should be ashamed of yourself." But she chimes back in and starts screaming by saying, "I could talk to whoever I want when they break club rules. I've been a member for 10 years. Martin's dad then pointed out that it looked like the entitled Karen and her partner were being rude to the non-members, and she stated that it's their duty to kick them out and they can handle it however they want. As we continue to explain multiple times that it was a free trial and how we weren't breaking any rules, she still wasn't having any of it and kept insulting and threatening to report us in the least nicest way imaginable. She asked for my boss's number, which, by the way, why would you do that to the person you're yelling at? But I ended up giving it to her anyways, knowing that I would be fine, and that as soon as I mentioned what this entitled Karen and her partner did, I wouldn't be in trouble in the first place. She topped it all off by saying that she'll be at the club committee meeting just to complain about us specifically. She said to us, "Your days are numbered." And as she disappeared, the group of non-members came over to apologize for what we had to put up with. This group then told me exactly what this entitled Karen said when they got on the court, and needless to say, this entitled Karen said some pretty nasty things. As soon as I get back to my tennis match, I texted my boss and the secretary, both of whom I was pretty tight with, to let them know exactly what happened. My boss replied saying that he'll sort it out and he appreciated how I handled it. The secretary texted me back saying that he's known about this entitled Karen and has dealt with multiple complaints about her behavior from some of the other members. Fast forward to the club committee meeting, and lo and behold, this entitled Karen didn't even show up. I saw my boss later in the week, and he told me he's yet to hear back from this entitled Karen in the first place. He asked me about how she treated the group and was disgusted at what he heard. A couple of months later, I came in for coaching, and the secretary told me that he gave the entitled Karen a call and told the pair of them that they were kicked out of the club for their actions on that day, as well as the various other incidents that have been their fault. And honestly, with all things considered, this entitled Karen absolutely absolutely had it coming. Good for the original poster for standing up for themselves while also handling that situation in a professional manner. It's always so disgusting when someone comes in, pretend like they're some kind of VIP or as if they own the place, and then when they get called out on it, they basically try to pull the card of, oh, I'm gonna get you fired. Like, that is honestly so obnoxious. You seriously have to have some unbelievable entitlement to try and pull that kind of garbage. It's also unbelievably refreshing to see that your boss had your side, because sometimes stuff like this goes down and the employee is the first one to blame instead of the person who instigated it in the first place, namely the entitled Karen of this story. So when it comes to this entitled Karen, good riddance from this club. She was a nuisance to begin with, and if she were to stay, that would seriously only hurt this club and its reputation as a whole. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My wife is angry because I won't go to her father's birthday party, despite the fact that me and her father absolutely do not see eye to eye, and we really do not like each other. And at this point, I don't know what to do. So my wife and I have been married for almost 4 years. Her parents are Marie and Sam. While Marie and I get along quite well, defining my relationship with Sam as awful would be an understatement. Our opinions differ on many things, but the main reason he doesn't like me is my job, or to be precise, how I got my job. I inherited my father's company a few years ago after I graduated college. Now, Sam is an old-fashioned man who believes a true man should build his own career from nothing with his own hands. He even invented a new nickname for me based on this. He calls me Smooth Hands. He believes I'm just a rich kid who got served an easy life on a silver platter and never had to struggle one day in his life. My father built his company from nothing when I was 14. He started training me to take over his job almost immediately. He was a nightmare to deal with. He always repeated the line by saying, I built this company from nothing, and I would prefer to destroy it myself than to let someone unfit take over it. He was a good father and a fair teacher, but he was harsh and honest to a fault. I firmly believe if he didn't succeed as a businessman, he would have made a career as a military instructor. Once I went to college, he paid for it, but I worked part-time in order to be independent. I lived in an apartment with 2 other college guys and paid rent and all my expenses without ever asking my family for money. Once I graduated, I started working with my father. The day he acknowledged me and said I was ready to take over the company was the second best day of my life, my wedding being the first. Now, I tried explaining this to my wife's dad, but it's like I was talking to a wall. After I understood getting along with Sam was impossible, I simply stopped trying altogether. In the last 2 years, we reached some sort of agreement. I don't like him and he doesn't like me, but we both love my wife. We don't have to get along. We don't have to be friends. We don't even have to acknowledge each other's existence, but we should at least stop arguing in front of her. We respected this agreement for the past 2 years, and everybody seems fine with it. But here's the problem. Sam's birthday is in 3 days. It's tradition for him to organize a party in his backyard with my wife, Marie, as well as his friends from work and their wives. But here's the kicker along with all of this. Sam doesn't want me there, and I don't want to go. But despite all this, my wife insists that I go and tells me that she will get angry if I don't go. It's all really confusing, and I seriously don't know what to do. The way your wife is acting is really weird to me. Like, isn't she aware that you and Sam do not get along? Like, why would you want to push that? It's obvious that you don't want to be there, and obviously Sam doesn't want you there either. So why try to push the issue even further? Because at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's his birthday. He can decide who shows up to his party and who doesn't. And he has made it pretty clear he does not want you there in the slightest. Needless to say, you've also spent 2 years trying not to argue with each other. You would think your wife, as well as everybody around you, would have caught on and seen that, hey, maybe they just don't like each other. And also, there's nothing wrong with inheriting a business. Like, the way your father-in-law is acting is absolutely ridiculous. If anything, this is just sour grapes, and he is clearly just jealous that he doesn't have what you have, which also ignores the fact that a lot of hard work is going to go into this business, and it's not going to be a walk in the park to keep it alive. So seriously, I think having a talk with your wife and saying to her that no, you're not going to go because Sam doesn't like me and he's made it very clear that he doesn't want me there. Like, the least you can do is keep that streak alive of not arguing with him and at least showing some kind of respect towards his boundaries. Because like it or not, he does decide who shows up and who doesn't. And if he doesn't want you there, trust me, in my opinion, it's way better to not show up as opposed to arriving at a party that you know for a fact that you were not invited to. My girlfriend overheard my mother saying an offensive remark to her as well as her family. And now, as a result result, she wants to break up with me, and I seriously don't know what to do. So my girlfriend and I are in a long-distance relationship. We've been together for 6 months, and we only get to see each other on a monthly basis. We live approximately 4 hours away from each other's houses. One morning, my girlfriend and I were on a video call. I was still in bed, while she was in their dining room having breakfast. We were having a normal conversation when her dad stepped in to ask if there are some nice hotels over at my place, since her dad's sister-in-law was planning to take a vacation in our city. I told them there were a few good ones, but I can't name anything specifically. That said, I decided to head downstairs, have some breakfast, and ask my family some decent hotels to stay in. When I got to our dining room, my sister and my mother were there. My girlfriend and I were still on a video call, so I panned my phone's camera to show my mom. My mom said hi and invited her to have some breakfast. I did the same thing with my sister while she was cooking, and she also said hi. All was going pretty well, so I prepared my food and started eating. I let my phone sit on the table, keeping myself in view for the video call. While eating, I asked my mom for any good hotels in our area, and she started saying some good and expensive hotels. I told her that my girlfriend's father is looking for a hotel in our area, and that's why I was asking in the first place. She then said, "Oh, well, they can go to this certain hotel, but it's quite expensive." And then she ended it by saying, "They're not welcome here though." I immediately felt uncomfortable after she said that. I looked at the video call and I saw that my girlfriend was acting like she didn't hear it. I muted my mic on the video call because I was afraid my mom was gonna say something even worse. A few minutes later, my girlfriend then chatted me and told me that she had to go to the bathroom, so she ended the call right then and there. When the call ended, I confronted my mom about what she just said when she knew I was on the phone with my girlfriend. She did not feel sorry about what she said, and she said something along the lines of, "I only said that because I'm still not ready for my boy to have any kind of girlfriend yet." I still told her that she didn't have to say that because it was offensive, and after that, I just walked out of the room. I was thinking about the entire thing the whole day. I was so afraid to ask my girlfriend about the situation, and I was hoping that she didn't hear it because I knew that she would get hurt. We were still chatting back and forth throughout the day, but I knew that something was in the air and we were both just avoiding it. That night, my girlfriend and I had a video call again. She was acting normal, but you could feel that something was up. She kept bringing up the topic about my family being okay with her and all of that stuff. So I told her that they're okay with her and that my dad and my sister like her. They really do. My mom's only feeling jealous about me having a girlfriend, but if they would meet each other just once, I'm sure that they would get along just fine. It was a pretty dry conversation, so once we didn't have much to talk about, we ended the call. When the call ended, my girlfriend messaged me and said, "I heard what your mom said about me not being welcome." And right there, I knew I messed up. I knew I should have consoled her immediately after my mom said that, instead of pretending like nothing happened. I told her that I'm sorry for hurting her, and I'm sorry for what my mother said. She said that she wanted to break up with me, stating that she can't be in a relationship where her partner's family doesn't accept her. I understood where she's coming from, and I got pretty overwhelmed with the situation. I told her that I wanted to fix this because I don't want our relationship to end just like that. She said to me, "You can't fix anything," and I didn't know what else to say at that point. My mind was completely blank at the moment. All I knew was I wanted to fix everything. It was a pretty long and emotional conversation. It took us the entire night. She even mentioned the fact that her family welcomed me with open arms, while on her end, she did not get the same treatment, and I can't blame her for that. My mom is the typical close-minded boomer, and I just can't stand her attitude sometimes, and this is one of those times. We both fell asleep while on the call. I gave her a long message this morning saying that I wanted to try and fix things. I told her that I don't want us to break up because I love her over anything in this world, and that I will do everything to fix this. Fortunately, she agreed, but just this afternoon, we talked about the whole incident again, and she said there's 50% of her that wants to stay, as well as 50% of her that wants to break up. She also told me that I don't have to do anything to fix what happened. She suggested I just let things go because the damage was already done. Our relationship is currently hanging in the balance at this point, and I don't know how to fix this situation. I'm afraid that in the next few days, the other 50% of her would kick in, spelling the end of our relationship. I know that family is a big deal for my girlfriend in relationships, and it is to me too. I want to make her feel that my family really does welcome her, and I want to make her happy and comfortable in our relationship again. I want our relationship to go back to normal. What should I do? To give a bit of context for this story, the original poster is 23 years old. This isn't some early teenage boy. guy who finally has a girlfriend in his life. This man is an adult, and his mom is actively basically trying to ruin his relationship. And that's not fair in the slightest. I mean, he had a good thing going, he had a girlfriend who he loved and really does respect, and she literally just took all of that away from him, simply for saying that they're not welcome here. I mean, that's just ridiculous in my opinion. So honestly, I think your relationship really is up in the air, but if this really is the end of your relationship, the only person that can be blamed for this situation will be your mom. She is the cause and the culprit for this falling apart, and it's honestly not your fault in the slightest. And in my opinion, I think you need to make it very clear to your mom that what she said is unacceptable and that will never happen again. There needs to be some serious boundaries between you and her to ensure that this never happens again, because she quite literally took away a good thing in your life. And if I was in your shoes, I would make sure that never happens again. I caught my wife blatantly cheating on me, both in DMs as well as in her actions, and I'm honestly lost and I seriously don't know what to do. So to start things off, I have long been suspicious of my wife cheating. We've been apart during COVID for 2 years due to border restrictions, and she only came back towards the end of 2021. Towards mid last year, we got married, but then a month later, problems started to arise. She had depression and anxiety for a while, but that escalated into heavy drinking. Soon after, I discovered that she was on Tinder and having full-blown inappropriate chat messages with other men, if you know what I mean. I confronted her and she said that she was only texting and did not dare to take it further. So I said fine and I just left it at that. She deleted everything after that. The heavy drinking continues, and during one of her drunken episodes, she started crying and begging to be in an open relationship. But I said no. And since then, I've been incredibly suspicious of her. I communicated what I felt a couple of times since then, and she only admits that she has thoughts of cheating, but never acted upon it. She also claims that I'm not enough for her, and that's honestly incredibly offensive. I offered her a way for us to separate amicably, and she is concerned that I will take away the dogs, which I assured her I wouldn't do. She's then worried to financially support herself. She does have a job that pays slightly below average by median standards, but she's finished her qualifications to be a lawyer, so I could imagine that she'll be earning something pretty well in a couple of years. Fast forward to this week, and I've been noticing direct messages popping up on Instagram on her watch and iPhone. It felt a little suspicious, so I logged onto her MacBook and I logged into her DMs. Thankfully, with her password saved on her MacBook, I noticed her exchanging with a contact, which didn't seem out of the ordinary at first, until I noticed a few flirty messages, saying stuff like, "Shall we hang out and do some cardio?" with a cheeky emoji next to it. It didn't feel right, and soon after that, she told me that she's leaving the house because she has a meeting with a study group. She also insisted that she take an Uber and really did not want me to drive her there, despite the fact that I offered. She was back 2 hours later, and now that it's night and she's asleep, I log on again and I see that she left a message saying, "Real talk, did you enjoy it?" Honestly, I feel gutted. Maybe I'm reading too much into the messages, but it feels strongly that she went over and spent some quality time with this person, if you know what I mean. I honestly don't know what to do. I don't want to lose what I have, but at the same time, I feel utterly betrayed. What should I do? I think it's pretty obvious what you need to do, but I don't think you want to do it, because it's obviously going to be hard and you're probably not going to enjoy the process. But to spell it out pretty obviously to you, your wife is 100% cheating on you. She is going behind your back, and you have literal proof in the form of text messages that basically prove that yeah, she's either cheating on you big time, or she is coming on to another person and saying, "Hey, what are you up to?" As well as all of these other flirty messages. And I mean, honestly, when is enough enough? You already caught her once having Tinder, as well as these super inappropriate conversations over text messaging with these other men that absolutely have no business getting involved in your relationship. She's also trying to have an open relationship of some kind, which would honestly just be a good excuse for her to cheat on you without feeling guilty about it, while also saying that you are not enough for her. And I honestly think your instincts are correct. She straight up drove to another person's house, not for some study group or whatever kind of excuse she's coming up with, but in fact to most likely spend some quality time with someone else. I mean, the proof is literally standing right in front of you, and I think you seriously need to be honest with yourself and look at this objectively and rationally, because she's the one that's absolutely throwing away your marriage, and she's clearly showing that her relationship with you is not that important, and that's not fair for you in the slightest. And it's ironic to me that she's come up with every excuse under the sun to describe why you should not break up with her. She's afraid you're going to take the dogs away. She doesn't want to financially support herself. Well, if she didn't want either of those things, then maybe she shouldn't have been flirting with other guys on Tinder, as well as secretly sending messages on her MacBook. And you know what? In this situation, I think it's probably a good thing that you got into her MacBook and found out the truth, because otherwise, who knows how long she would keep this up. So hopefully you can come to your senses and see what's actually happening in front of you, because your wife absolutely does not love you in the way that you love her. And I seriously doubt that she will change her ways, no matter how many opportunities you clearly give her. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out in the description below and subscribe.